Alrighty. All right, friends, welcome. It is Friday night here in Huntington, and we are live. It's a beautifully brisk evening here. Some may say it's actually cold, and I'll give them that, but this kind of weather that I absolutely adore, and if it never got warmer than this, I would be happy. So we're going to begin on page six, and we'll have responsive reading as best we can. Page 6 in the middle. May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares, one burden, thanks to express hopes to nurture.
May the door of the synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or strength.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May the synagogue be for all who live in old age, a richer, more meaningful life.
All right, we're going to jump ahead to page 20. Page 20, Lecha Dodi, brought to us from the mystical city of Sfat, up in the Galil, one of some of the most beautiful areas in Israel. Page 20. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamov zachor b'dibor echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad ushmaho echad, L'shem tiferet v'litila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela, Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, Ki mikor ha'bracha, Merosh mikedev nehesucha, Sof ma'aseh machshava tchila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela, Mikdah hashmelech ir melucha, Kumitzi mitoch hafecha, Rav lahak shevet b'yemech havacha, V'hu yachamol alaychem la, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela, Hitana arhi mi'afar kumi, Livshi bigdei tifartei chami, Al yad b'ni shai beit halachmi, Korva el nafshi gehala, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela, Hitorori, Ki ba'orek kumi uri, shir daberi, Kevod Adonai alaych nigla, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela, Lo tevoshi v'lo tikol mi, Ma tishtochachi ma tehembi, Bach yechesu ani ami, B'ni b'netayir al tila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela, V'hayu l'shimsa shohosayich, V'rahacha kuhu kol mevalayich, Yasis alayich Elohayich, Ki himsos chatan al kala, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela, Yamin u'smol tifrotzi, V'et Adonai taharitzi, Al yaharish ben partzi, V'ni smecha v'nagila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Please rise. Boi b'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'sohola, toch emune segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekabila. You may be seated. Let's read some verses from the Psalm for Shabbat on page 22, the outdented paragraph, together in English. A song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together, you have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai! How very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Tzadik katamaha yifrach ke'erez balvanon iske shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu. Oh, Jenuvun Beseva, Deshenim Bera'ananim, Iyu Lehagi, Ki Ashar Adonai, Tsuri, Velo Avlatabo. Page 24 will come and welcome the angels with the traditional words of greeting. Shalom Aleichem. Page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mihi melech, malachei amlachim hakadosh, baruch hu. Baruch hu ni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mihi melech, malachei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Seitchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mihi melech, malachei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Please rise, page 146, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam zoyim.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam vaed. You may be seated. Let's read together the paragraphs in English on 147. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you, and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Shelo Chayil Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Page 148, let's read responsively in English. In each age, we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment, we are addressed by the world. In each age, we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment, the knowing heart is filled with wonder. In Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol vavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol meodecha, v'hayu advarim ha'eleh, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom alevavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, uvlektecha b'derech, uv'shokbecha uvkumecha, uvshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha, uchfaftam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'tem kedoshim le'elohechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 151, let's read responsively in the English. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. When will redemption come? Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High. Top of 152. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nohora tehilot, ohosei feleh, malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokeyam lifnei Moshe, zeli anu v'amruhu, Adonai yimloch V'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar ki fad Adonai et Yaakov, u'galom yachazak mimenu, baruch atah Adonai, ga'al Yisrael. Top of 153, let's chant the top two lines, the first two lines of Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu lechayim. Let's read together in the English. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'povei sukkah shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim. Page 154 at the top, some verses from the book of Exodus. Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-shabbat, la'asot et ha-shabbat le'dogotam b'rit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-shabbat, la'asot et ha-shabbat לדורותם ברית העולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. Please rise for the Amidah. We'll begin together on page 155. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu Bimoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Goel Livnei B'neihem, L'Ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Abraham, Mi'ezrat Sarah, atah Gibor Li'olam Adonai, Mechayev etim atarav laHoshia, Mashiv haRuach, U'morid haGashem, Mechakel Chayim bechesed, Mechayev etim berachamim rabim. Zomech noflim, erofei cholim, umatir hasurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'gevurot, umidomelach, melech mimihi, umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah l'chayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, l'chayei hametim. Let's turn to the middle of page 160, and let's read that paragraph together in English. Middle of 160. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat. Page 163, a little bit of hoda'ah, a little bit of thanksgiving, and lots to be grateful for this week. And so page 163 at the top, let's read responsively. For the good in us which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
For the tree to the fruit of the world with the hearts and our hands we offer praise.
For the desire in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow. All praise to the source of being.
And 164, as always with the Amidah, we close out with a prayer for peace. In the evening, it's Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol etu v'chol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Praise you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. We jump ahead to 253, one of our many prayers for healing. This one is Misha Berach, middle of 253. Misha Berach. Misha Berach. Ahavoteinu Mekor habracha Leimoteinu. Bless the source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema. The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Pages 258 and 259, prayers of our community. And Nancy, how about the prayer for our congregation?
Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us. Love of Torah, devotion and prayer in support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us to be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy.
Baruch atah Adonai, sholtecha levacha b'yirah ha'avod. Mari, the prayer for our country.
O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit.
Amen. Shalom, shalom, Yerushalayim, Yishlayu Hovaich. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. Avinu Shabashamayim, Sur Yisrael, V'go'alo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reishit Tzmichat Geulatenu. Hagen Aleha B'Yafrach Chasdecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Orcha V'Amitecha, V'Rasheha Sareha V'Yoetzeha. V'Taknim Be'etzah Tova Milfanecha, V'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz, V'Simchat Olam V'Yoshveha, V'Damar. Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos. This week's Torah portion is Vayishlach. It's one that I love, and it's one that I kind of hate. Because there's a lot going on there. Yaakov is returning home. Last week, he left Laban. He took his wives and his children, and he now heads back to his physical home, but also his metaphorical home as well, as we're going to see that Yaakov has quite the adventure on his way home. He has to go close to where Esav is. Now, they haven't seen each other in almost 20 years. And Yaakov's a little, how should we say, hesitant, nervous. He sends messengers out to greet Esav, and they bring back news that, Esav is close, and he's with 400 men, and it looks like he's open and ready for business. Well, Yaakov, being, of course, Yaakov, he panics because he thinks, people can't change, and so Esav must be coming to kill him. So he divides the group into two camps so that if Esav attacks one, the other one will survive. And he takes his family, those closest to him, across the river. He spends the night alone, and he wrestles with a mysterious figure. Some say it's an angel. Some say it's God. Some say it's Yaakov's inner turmoil that comes to spend the evening with him. And he struggles all night with this visitor. And near dawn, the visitor wants to leave. He says, all right, I've had enough fun, let's go. And Yaakov won't let him go. Yaakov says, no, I'm not going to let you go. And so the guy cheats a little bit and wrenches Yaakov's hip. And so he walks with a limp for the rest of his life. And the third mitzvah in the book of Bereshit comes this week, where we're forbidden from eating a certain vein or a certain nerve in the leg of a cow. And the big thing is that Yaakov's name is changed. He goes from being Yaakov, the one who is a heel, to Yisrael, one who struggles with God. And for the rest of the Torah, for the rest of our tradition, Yaakov is occasionally known as Yaakov. Other times he's known as Yisrael. the meeting finally comes. The moment that Yaakov has been dreading, Esav shows up. And I don't think it's like anything Yaakov had expected. They run towards each other, they hug, they kiss, they talk about how successful each has become, and then each goes his own way. Now the rabbis, and tomorrow we'll talk about this much more in greater detail, the rabbis still have to make Esav the villain. And so they come up with a creative way of pretty much destroying this beautiful moment between the two brothers. Esav goes back to where he is from. Yaakov continues home, and we have what's called a drop-in. A story that doesn't fit either with what came before or what comes after. There are a number of these in the Torah. And this one is the story of Dinah, Yaakov's daughter. And one of the few daughters that are actually named in the Torah. And she's raped by a fellow named Shechem. And once he realizes what he's done, he offers to marry her. Except Dinah's brothers say, no. You have to have Brit Milah. You have to be circumcised. We're not going to let our sister run off with some uncircumcised heathen. And so the Shechem and his men all say, okay. And then the day after they're circumcised, while they're recovering, the brothers attack and kill all of the men. Now this upsets Yaakov, right? Because it's not about Dinah, it's not about anybody else. It's about Yaakov, and he says, "How will this look upon me? People are going to start hating me, right? What have you done?" And the brothers say, "Well, should we let our sister be treated like a hussy and just ignore it, or do we defend our sister?" After the Dinah episode, God appears at a place called Beit El. You'll hear it called Bethel in modern Hebrew, and promises Jacob that nations shall flow through you. Meaning, once again, giving us the promise that was given to Abraham, was given to Yitzchak. Now it's given to Yaakov, that you'll be a powerful nation. And your children will get to the promised land, the land that I promised to your grandfather. Rachel, after stealing her father's idols and having Jacob not know that, and he curses her basically, she dies in childbirth, and she's buried at the side of the road. She's giving birth to Benjamin, and she is the only one of the matriarchs who's not buried at Machpelah. Right? Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah are buried there. Rachel is buried at the side of the road, and you can go to Kever Rachel, the grave of Rachel, and you'll see where she's buried. At the end of this parsha, Yitzhak dies, bringing a close to yet one more story about the patriarchs. He is buried at Machpelah, and he's buried by his sons Yaakov and Esav. And we have one mitzvah this week. I told you it's not to eat that sinew in the leg of a cow, and that is your Torah portion in a nutshell. The nice thing about Zoom is that I can talk to people that live very, very far away from me. The downside of Zoom is that having tea with them is no different than I'm just sitting there and drinking tea, watching something on YouTube, right? I miss that contact with my friends. And I have a very good friend from Tampa, and he's a Buddhist priest actually, and he is studying and works as a chaplain for one of the hospital systems in Tampa. And this week we had a tea together, and he asked about tattoos. Now, Jason is not interested in becoming Jewish. He is a Buddhist priest, and he has a beautiful back tattoo and two sleeves done with various symbols that have meaning for him and his family. And he was asking me, because he had been in one of his classes on Judaism, says that the Prof said that if I were a Jew, I couldn't be buried in a Jewish cemetery. He says, is that true? I said, the short answer is no. No, it's not true. It's what we call a baba misa. But there is a but to it, because tattoos in the Torah are forbidden. We're forbidden to carve initials or names or symbols of other gods onto our flesh. And the interesting thing is that unlike eating treif, unlike, say, eating pork, where there is a specific punishment for eating pork, it's lashes, by the way, right? If you eat non-kosher food, back in the Torah times, you would have been whipped, taken out and whipped a little bit. But there's no real punishment for a tattoo. You're not required to take it off. You're just not required. You're not allowed to get one. Well, here it is. There's a baba misa that came around. The baba misa is a Yiddish word, Yiddish saying for a grandmother's story. Something that your grandmother would tell you, not so you didn't do something, right? Don't eat cookies before dinner, or the cookie mouse will get you, or whatever, right? And so there's a baba misa that says you can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery if you have a tattoo. And that is a baba misa, that is. But there is some truth to it, right? Even the craziest baba misas have some truth to it. Jews didn't really worry about getting tattoos while we were in Europe. But when we got to America, that's when we started to assimilate more. And young Jewish men, and I'm talking about, this would have been the generation that would have come over, that first generation in the late 1900s, with that first great immigration from Eastern Europe. So by the time World War II rolled around, there were enough Jewish young men to get drafted. And so they would go, and they would join the Army, the Navy, whatever. And, if you're in the Navy, once you cross the equator, first time, you get a tattoo. First time you cross the Atlantic, you will get a tattoo. And for crossing the Atlantic, it would be an anchor. And so these Jewish boys who wanted to fit in, they would come home with their brand new tattoos, and their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents would clutch their collective pearls and say, "Oi, look at what you've done. Now you can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery." Yeah, well, yes and no. Because at the same time they were coming over, Jews coming from Eastern Europe started to buy land that would be turned into cemeteries. And if you've ever been in Queens, New York, or if you've ever seen a movie or anything that's set in Queens, there's a huge cemetery that you will see. It's often, you see it in The Godfather. You see it in a whole bunch of movies. And within that very big cemetery, there is a big Jewish cemetery. And what happened when Eastern Europeans would come over, they would go and they would buy sections of the cemetery for people from their village, people from their B'nai B'rith chapter, people from their synagogue. And so within the larger Jewish cemetery, you had smaller Jewish cemeteries, and those people could set the rules on who was buried there. Right? You had to be from Hotzenplotz, or you had to belong to Rodef Kesef synagogue, or you had to have some sort of connection to the people who bought that little plot of land. And they could write the rules as to who could be buried and who wouldn't be buried. And so when these little Jewish boys started to come back with their wartime tattoos, people started to write into the cemetery law, "Can't be buried here if you have a tattoo." was a taste thing, I guess, because there was no general halakha forbidding that. If a person has a tattoo, they can have full honors in the synagogue. They can lead the davening. They can get called up to the Torah, which is the highest honor. There's no call for it to be removed. You don't have to remove it. If you're a non-Jew and you're converting, you can have tattoos. That doesn't keep you from converting. And you can have a full Jewish funeral in a Jewish cemetery, provided that the cemetery isn't owned by a subgroup and they have different laws. Like, if you're brown hair, we won't bury you here. I mean, it was some of those crazy laws from the Jews that came from Eastern Europe. But there is no prohibition for when you die, if you have a tattoo, that you can't get buried in a Jewish cemetery. Now, Jason found that quite amusing because every Jew that he's talked to, even his professor, said, no, you can't be buried because it's such an affront to God. Maybe, but it won't keep you from being buried in a cemetery. All because of a Baba Misa, all because of a story. There's some truth, but often we don't get all of the truth. And people will listen to Baba Misas and say, well, that is the way it is, when in fact, it's not. It's not. And so I told Jason, I said, well, you didn't have to sit there perseverating. All you had to do was ask me. He said, that's what I did. I said, yeah, but you could have asked me sooner. I said, don't be afraid to ask questions because, you may have the wrong information. And if you ask the right question, you might get the right answer, right? And as always, in our world, knowledge is power. And so, Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos. Now, if y'all going out and get tattoos, I'm not taking responsibility for it, but that'll be up to you and God. Mari.
Kadoosh.
Kiddush. 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 All righty.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
During World War II, and the Jews having tattoos by the Germans, were those accepted?
The Jews who were forcibly tattooed, they've never not been accepted. They've never not been accepted, meaning that in Judaism, there's a phrase called Ba'al Korchacha, against your will. Anything that is done to you against your will, you are not responsible for. Right? So even if there were a prohibition about tattoos, a much stronger one, they would have been as if they didn't have a tattoo. One of the craziest things I've heard, and it makes my stomach clench. There are young Jews, post-millennial, that are going out and getting the numbers of their relatives tattooed on their arms. And that is, even for me, that's a step too far. But that's for another discussion. That's for another discussion. But like if a child is born to a non-Jewish mother, and the father and the mother then have the baby converted through Brit Milah or whatever, when that child turns 13, they have the option of saying to their parents, I don't want to be Jewish, because the circumcision was done against their will. And they have the opportunity to say, I don't want to be Jewish. I've not run into anybody who's ever done that, but that option is there. That option is there. Can't do something against a child's will. And it's not the circumcision, it is the conversion of it, which was against the child's will. All right. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Vayer vayivoker yom hashishi, vayichulu hashamayim v'haaretz, v'chol tzevam, vayichal Elohim bayom hashvi, melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi, mikol melachto asher asa, Vayavarech Elohim et Yom HaShavi'i, Vayikadesh Oto, Kivo Shabbat, Mikol Melachto, Asher Bara Elohim, Lasot. Sabri. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri agafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho, b'ahava uvratzon, inchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh, Zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, Ivanu b'charta, Yotanu kidashta, Mikol ha'amim, V'shabbat kodshecha, V'ahava uvratzon, V'chaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Please remain standing. 282, Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'tei kedula li'otzeh reshit, Shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot hadama. Shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gohor aleinu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, akadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu notei shamayim v'yoser haaretz, u'Moshe b'karo b'shamayim v'imal, u'shlinatu zo, b'govhei meromi, u'Eloheinu einod, emet malkeinu efes ulato, kakahatu b'torato, V'yadata hayom v'hashevota elevavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim v'shamayim v'imal mi'al haaretz v'ihi tachat eino. Ki hamalchut shelcha hi, u'li'almei timloch b'chavod, hakatu b'toratecha Adonai imloch, le'olam ha'ed. V'ne'emar, v'chaya Adonai, l'melech al kol ha'aretz, bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You may be seated. This week, we observe the following yard sites. Frederick J. Glazer, Hoyt's father, Saul Hyman, Jack Hyman's uncle, and Saul built the Keith Albee. Nina Klausner, Paul Mayer's maternal grandmother, Ruth Perry, Loretta Levine's mother, Eric Piber, Robert Simons, Sharon's husband, father of Spencer, Vicky, and Gwen, Dorothy Slifkin, Nancy Billig's mother, Isidore Rosenberg, Michael's father, Beatrice Miller, Randy's mother, Stephen Jablow, father of Samantha, Shayna, and Rachel, Arthur Weisberg, Joan's husband, father of Pamela, Martha, Louis, Seth, and Charlie. Peter Island, son of Ed and Evelyn. Maxine Schoenfeld Frank, relative of Walter Lewis. Irving Innerfield. Barbara Shaddles, Steve's mother. Lydia Hess, Toby Murphy's grandmother. Anna Kaplan, Pauline's sister-in-law, married to Sam, mother of Steve and Betsy. Charles Levine, Loretta's husband, Leanne and Amy's father. Robert Levy, husband of Joyce, father of Peter, Jane, and Joel. Helen Robbins, Howard Feinberg's maternal grandmother. Joseph Ellswick, Pat Johnson's great-great-grandfather. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us all, and may they always rest in peace. Mourner's Kaddish, found on page 294. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah, Belma, Divrach, Yute, V'amlik Malchute, B'chayecho, V'yomecho, V'chaye, D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agala, V'zman Kari, V'yimru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mevarach, Lalam, Omei Amaya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei Kudishah, Brichu, Leila Minko, Birchata, B'shirata, Tushbachata, B'nechamata, Damiram, Balma, V'yimru, Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. You may be seated. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos. It is a brisk one out there tonight, but it should be a nice weekend. Services tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And if you're interested in hearing more about Esav and Yaakov and Esav's reunion, we're going to have a study session then. So that's tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Sunday morning at 9 o'clock is a Sunday morning minyan. And then after early afternoon at 1 o'clock, we're just going to have our Hebrew class. And then at 2 o'clock, we're going to continue our navigation through the Siddur and Jewish prayer. And then Sunday evening, beginning at 5 o'clock, there's a quick board meeting before the congregation meeting, and that is, I believe, starts at 5:30. 5:30. So come on out and hear what's been going on since the last congregational meeting. And then it's a quiet week, except for later in the week when Cantor Beth shows up, and then my week is no longer quiet. But Cantor Beth will be here next weekend, and we'll have a Tiny Human Shabbat service on Friday night. We'll have a special musical Shabbat service here in the chapel beginning at 7. Saturday morning, we'll have a regular Saturday service, and then we're going to have a lunch and learn. And then Saturday night, we're going to have an evening of live music and other entertainments. And then Sunday with Cantor Beth, she and I will be putting on a family-friendly Hanukkah program. And so family-friendly is always good. And for any and all, please, especially for the lunch and learn, the Saturday night dinner, entertainment, please RSVP because there will be food, and we want to know roughly how much food to prepare. And then on Sunday, if you're going to have your family and bring them to the family-friendly Hanukkah program, please let us know because there'll be materials for that as well.
What
So,
time are these events?
pardon?
What time are the events?
Well, lunch and learn on Shabbat is after Shabbat services. And then Saturday night, I think it begins at 7. And then I think on Sunday, we haven't made the decision yet. But an email will be going out on Monday. So all the times and everything will be there as well.
Did you say that Friday night service next Friday will be at 7?
No? I said the Saturday night program is at 7.
You said Friday night services were at 7.
That's why.
I just switched it in my.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're at 6.
6, okay.
The Tiny Human Shabbat is earlier.
Right, okay.
You said time, yeah, you pushed it back an hour.
I'm sorry.
No problem, I won't put it back in my phone.
I get on a roll. In the back, you'll see that the Hadar Hanukkah guide, Hanukkah companion, the last one we had was for the high holidays, and now they are back. And this one comes from the faculty in Israel. And for those of you who have young kids, there's a Hanukkah pamphlet for the kids. If you don't have young kids, please don't take them because we only have a limited number of these, but you can take a book or two if you want. And last but not least is, I don't know if you've been watching any pro sports or anything, but a lot of commercials are about the blue pin with the little hashtag. We've had these for forever. They're back out in the public eye. So this is Say No to Hate. And so there are a number of those in the back. Grab a couple, give them to your friends. That's a nice way to stand up to hate and let people know where you draw the line. And I think that is it. So let's close out on 3:21 with Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chefso Kol Azai Mehelech Shemo Mikra B'Yakarei Iglot HaKol Levado Imlohok Nahora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yihye B'tifara V'hu Echad V'ein Sheni L'hamshir Lo L'hachbira B'li Reshit B'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz V'hamisra V'hu Eli V'chai Goali V'sur Chevli V'yeit Tzara V'hu Nisi Humanosli Menat Kosi B'yom Ekra B'yahado Akid Ruchi B'yeit Ishan B'yahira B'imruchi G'viyati Adonai Li V'lo Ira. All right, let's go. We have some people saying hello to us via the intertubes. And let's see here. We have Kyle Swan, Good Shabbos, Huntington, Mishpacha, right back at you. There's Mom, Shabbat Shalom to all from Rabbi's Mom and Cliff, from Bitter Cold PA, stay warm and safe. There is Grant David Tate, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi's Mom, everyone at Temple in Huntington, and on the intertubes, stay warm, well, and safe. Good Shabbos. Thank you, Grant David. You too, Don Wilson. Shabbat Shalom to all and to you as well. All right, friends, lots of people saying stay warm. Please do, and enjoy your Shabbat. Again, a quiet week except for the congregational meeting on Sunday, but then next weekend packed chock full of lots of things to do, and you'll be getting an email with all the information on Monday. We wish you all Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos, and please be safe out there.